Guys, welcome back. Sdho, how are you doing? We are back, and we are going to cover a lot of ground today. Going to do some sound design in Ableton, specifically in analog. Then going to get into some digital art stuff, some AI stuff, some spiritual stuff, kind of like how we always do, and going to mix it all together. I'm going to start in Ableton today. And on the last Sdho, I also did some sound design in Ableton, specifically in Operator, and we went through the coarse and the fine knobs and how that allows you to do a very unique type of synthesis called additive synthesis. And so it's pretty unique. I actually might make a dedicated tutorial just to additive synthesis in Operator because it gives these really unique sounds that are, one might classify them as metallic sounding, bell sounds. And it's because, when you're doing this synthesis, like we're going to do in analog, I'm going to have it generate a saw wave or a square wave. And it's going to generate the fundamental, so the pitch that we play, that's the fundamental. So on a sine wave, all you get is the fundamental. But with saw wave and square wave, it gives you the fundamental pitch and all the harmonics. But all those harmonics are all mathematically related. So you've got the second harmonic, the third harmonic, the fourth harmonic, the fifth harmonic, but they're all related to that fundamental frequency. So in additive synthesis and an operator, what it allows you to do is to say, okay, so those areas, those harmonics, what if we detune the harmonics? And when you detune the harmonics, it starts sounding like metal. Not like metal, but like, it's like a metallic-y bell sound. It sounds like you threw a resonator device on it. So, go watch that. I don't know, it might be 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, 7 minutes in. I really don't know. Just skim through, and then when you see Ableton, then you can do that. So we're going to be on Operator today, Analog. And Analog specializes in subtractive synthesis, which is kind of like the OG synthesis. I dare I say the most basic synthesis, but there's a lot of different things you can do. And when I design these sounds, I like to have the spectrum open so you can see. Now, you only have the most basic waveforms because that's kind of subtractive synthesis's thing. So as I was saying, if you had a sine wave, you only get the fundamental. Now you might say, well, dude, you're crazy because you've got all of these down here, but you're actually really not hearing these. So for instance, if I go into the spectrum and I move it up, because that's like a negative 100 hertz or negative 100 decibels, like you're not hearing that, you know what I mean? And the reason why it's not like a perfect digital sine wave, and it has these guys, is because these analog old school synthesizers, they didn't generate like a perfect digital waveform. So if we were to go to Operator sine wave, but use your ears. Is it not the same sound? Okay, well, we don't want that. Just want the sine wave up top here. I'm just going to adjust the display. This note right here is the fundamental, this C note. But now look what happens when I go to a saw wave. Notice how all those harmonics shot up. We heard it. It's bright. It's buzzy. That's when you want to use the filter. to attenuate those frequencies. So we are subtracting those harmonics, those frequencies. Now, that's because we're on a low-pass filter. I have a feeling that in the earliest days, when people got their hands on these analog subtractive synthesizers in the late 60s, in the 70s, before the digital synthesizers and FM synthesis became really the talk of the town in the 80s, but back in the 70s, I have a feeling that all the filters were low-pass filters. I don't think they had the more, had the other ones yet. So low-pass, it's saying let all the lows pass. So let all the lows pass up to the cutoff. So it's at 358. So it's saying let all the lows pass up to 358. So if we move it up, it will allow more to pass through. But we don't want that. Or we want to, and so what you would do is you would utilize this filter frequency to sculpt your sound. And then you can use the resonance to boost this 378. So right now, we're boosting that cutoff. I don't know what your analog, because you should follow along with me if you want. I don't know what your analog looks like, but if you have oscillator 2, filter 2, amp 2 turned on, turn them off right now. You get 2 oscillators, and my thoughts is when you're using synthesizers, if you get 2 oscillators or more, just stick with one, achieve what you need to achieve, and then to not complicate yourself, utilize the second oscillator when you need it. So we've got this oscillator 1 on a saw wave, and then that gets thrown into this filter. And notice how I click the filter, this display changed here when I go back. I've got this, the display changes. So it's taking the saw wave, it's then putting it into the filter. The filter frequency is a low pass filter, and it's letting all the it's taking all these frequencies out to this one, and then it's being passed into the amplitude envelope. And then that's what we hear. So if we turned amp 1 off, we wouldn't hear anything. We could turn filter off and we'd still hear something. And if we turned oscillator 1 off, you best believe we ain't hearing nothing. Got it? Just trying to help you understand this better. Now, you might be thinking, it sounds like you put a filter envelope on there. When you click on the filter, when you go down here to envelope, I believe it's hardwired to be at 4, but I like to keep it on 0 and then adjust later. So if we go to this filter envelope, I'm going to put it on linear. Doesn't really matter. Actually, we'll just keep it there. Nice slope. It doesn't do anything until you give an envelope amount. And what that does is look at how the attack right here is 0. Well, I guess it's 5, but basically it's 0. It's saying, what I will do for you as the envelope is when you hit a note, I'm going to start this filter all the way open and I'm going to slope it down so you don't have to do this with your hand, and I'm going to do this over 263 seconds. So you can kind of hear, right now, turning the filter off, hear how bright it is? It's saying, when I hit a note, swoop it down, And so the envelope does that for you. Now, it's not truly playing open all the way and swooping down. It would do that if you had the filter envelope open all the way. So listen. Now listen to what happens as you play the note and then bring the envelope amount down. So the lower it is, it's like, oh, maybe let's open it up this much and then swoop it down. So that's how you kind of adjust your sound. And if we gave this more of an attack, listen to how it changes. And notice how when I'm doing these changes, whether it's in the synthesizer, or maybe I'm tweaking a reverb or a delay or a phaser, notice how I'm hitting notes while I'm changing it, and I'm changing the parameters, not just to dial in a good sound, but let's go a little bit too much to the right, a little bit too much to the left, and then you sort of find that sweet spot. So I would encourage you to do that as well. So let's give it more envelope amount. Okay, 555. And then let's play with this decay here. Now, if you're wondering why something's weird, like maybe yours isn't sounding that way, you need to go into the amplifier settings, because when you go into amplifier settings, which is basically volume, if you had this down, so there is no envelope amount on the boy, I'm not very good at talking today, but I do feel like talking, and I do feel like putting out this content, so hopefully you can bear with me. So let's pretend, anyways, the volume envelope, it's always hardwired on every synth, or at least in every Ableton synth. So you don't have to dial in an envelope amount. It's just sort of there. So for some weird reason, I don't know, in analog, in amp 1, your sound was like this, so only a decay of 19 milliseconds, and you're wondering why you're not hearing anything, you would want to bring out the decay. And I like to just leave the sustain all the way up until I want to then take it away, because I'm doing more of a shorter percussive type sound. And then the release is always good, so it really rings out. And you also want to adjust the release on the filter envelope as well, so it continues when on the release part. So if we took the release, see how it kind of cuts off at the end when you play it? Release is like when you stop playing, you're playing a note, as soon as you release the note, that's when the release comes in, and then it gives a trail off if you have it. So if we took the release away on the amplitude, see how it's like blop, blop, and then you give it the release back, but you hear the filter going like blop, blop, blop. So then you want to give more of a release to the filter. Listen how it will change. Let's just bring it in really quick so you can hear the difference. Sounds like it's being cut off. So once you really understand attack, decay, sustain, and release, ADSR, it's going to be on every synth. So, okay, so that's like a nice kind of a sound, kind of boring, so you might want to maybe go into, let's say, add a reverb. Just trying to drag it and ran out of real estate. Okay, so dry wet, bring it to 0, and that is the same as if you just turned off the reverb, and then dial in how much you want. Yeah, there's a lot of knobs, but dry, wet, and decay, literally you can just do those and nothing else. So completely dry, and then completely wet. I find like 33 is always good on there. And then decay, listen to when we bring the decay all the way down. And then all the way up. It's a little bit too bright, so I'm going to turn this filter down. And I think it's too much envelope. So let's do 333. And let's take it down an octave. Let's let things cool off for a little bit before we go further. So it sounds so much better when you've got that reverb going on, because like every single sound we hear in like the natural world has reverb, right? Like there's just a natural reverb everywhere. So when you don't hear reverb, it just sounds awful. That's why a lot of, when you open up Ableton or a sound library, especially in the olden days, and you hear these like digital electric sounds, none of them had reverb, which was good because then you could add your own reverb, but it's like, it just doesn't sound right until you got that reverb there. It's probably too much reverb, but I do like it. So back into analog, we have something unique. This is one of the goodies that you might not be aware of. So if you were on the filter envelope or the amp section or filter section, click over here to the oscillator section. And if you're wondering what this was, this will give it a pitch. And if that sounds too much, then you would just bring in the amount. With nothing. But that's not what I wanted to show you. So see this sub-sync area? If you go to sync, listen to what happens. So you could automate that. But listen to it right now. So nothing. I'm just going to give it a little bit, added a little bit of character. What's really interesting is in MIDI effects, I think it's MIDI effects, envelope MIDI. So no attack, and then I want it to just swoop down. And I'm going to map it to this sync. Now you might say, why didn't you just do that in analog? Well, because you can't. Let's take the decay in. See what it does with a little bit of attack. So right there, that's a unique sound with this sync. Now, I don't want it to... What if I take this 100 down? Because I don't want it to open up all the way at the top. Amazing. So that's there. Giving you good ideas, mate. You can go to sub and it'll just give you like a sub underneath it. See that sub coming up there? And that's cool, but like you could just take the octave down. Ooh, I like the way that sounds. Now I'm going to activate oscillator 2. I'm going to keep it on saw wave, and I'm just going to mimic the settings. Okay, I turned that off good. So this oscillator 2 is going to head into filter 1 with oscillator 1, and then it's naturally then going to go into the amp, and you're going to hear it. I'm not going to turn any of these on yet, but I just want the exact same thing because I'm going to show you the trick. This is something that I believe analog subtractive synthesizers did, but when you add a little bit of detune, it gives this really nice effect. So like right now, if I turn oscillator 2 off, I'm going to turn oscillator 2 on. It's weird. It's like it got quieter. I think it's because they might be canceling each other out. But look what happens when you add a little bit of detune. Just a little bit. You could change the octave. It's not as good when they're like the same. So that's one of the areas when you would add like a detune, but I kind of like that deep bass. So without, see how they're kind of like just... Give some detune. Hear that? Let's go into the amp, play with the amp envelope. But if I know I want it to really ring, I like to just keep the sustain up. So if I hold, however long I hold it, you're gonna hear it. Filter frequency, if you give it an attack, listen to this. Maybe that's too much attack. That was a chord. Chords don't sound good that low. Now let's get filter 2. And let's put like a notch. But we're not really hearing anything because we need to get this amp 2. Now listen, you're gonna hear a lot of brightness come through. Amp 2, I'm gonna adjust the volume. I'm gonna enact LFO 2, and I'm gonna add it to the filter, so it's gonna be moving it like that. And in this slider over here for oscillator 2, it says it's take all of it up to filter 1, but I would like some of it to go straight into filter 2. So listen to this. Notice how you're now hearing. Playing with the LFO rate. Maybe we'll have some attack on amp 2. So it sort of fades in. Maybe do the same for the filter. Now keep in mind, the filter is on default giving you a value of 4, which I don't know if I want that at all, or maybe just a little bit. That's why you want to kind of check the settings. Now let's give some vibrato. See what happens when we have to turn vibrato on. So that's like too much. I'm gonna lower the hertz and take down the mount. Can do glide, so it glides between the notes. It's subtle. I'm gonna turn it off because the low notes are blending too much in together, but like that's where the glide would be, and then you can set that. Unison can have a nice detuning effect. Don't want to do too much though. And over here in unison, you can have it do a delay so it doesn't start right away. going to let things cool down. So I think one of the most important things when you're learning any kind of like sound design is to realize that pretty much like pretty much all of them have ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release, and that's going to apply to the filter if you wanted to, and it's always going to apply to the volume, which as we see is also called amplitude or amp. So if you're on a wavetable synthesizer, you're going to have the ADSR. If you're on a subtractive, an FM synthesizer, they're all going to have that. They're also all going to have LFOs. The filter envelope, there's probably going to be an amount, an envelope amount. And if you don't assign it, or if it's already assigned for you and you don't know it, then the filter's envelope will be having an effect on your sound. So you've got these envelopes and you've got LFOs, and they're going to be on every synth. So if you know that, then you can kind of work with how you're going to do your sound. So it's just a way to kind of break things down. And of course, what's also challenging is you really want to be either playing notes like I am while you're changing the parameters so you can hear the effect, to dial in your sound, and to, of course, learn about sound synthesis, like what you're doing. But if that's like too much, I mean, heck, you could have like a friend play notes and then you go in and you do it. Or just open up some sort of like Ableton Live project you have where you've got a MIDI clip playing, and then just play the MIDI clip, and then as it's playing, then you can then tweak the synthesizer. And that's actually a very helpful way to do it, because if you have like a track open and you're mixing the track, because all the other elements of your composition are playing, it can be a very productive way to really dial in your sounds while that's happening. Something that's interesting is there's this error thing right here. Listen to this. Just add some like randomness into like the voltages. So be aware of that. Redux, I have a feeling, could sound kind of interesting. It's like breathing. Get a phase of flange on there. I'm just going to get rid of the spectrum. Okay, have fun. Now go play with analog and have fun, okay? Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Let's go online. I know I talk about like AI a lot and that it can be used for creative inspiration. So I use ChatGPT as like my astrologer. Like I already know astrology, but there's like certain aspects, no pun intended, certain aspects of astrology that like I'm curious about and I don't know about. And you might be like, well, mate, go ask an astrologer, don't ask AI. Turns out AI is very, very good at astrology and just everything. And so I was talking about it, how Saturn has been transiting my 4th house. And your 4th house in astrology has to do with the home. And Pisces is my 4th house. And like Pisces is a very like spiritual, deep, spiritual kind of a house. Very much represents kind of like the subconscious world. Like Pisces is like the 2 fish and they're swimming in like opposite directions. Like one is like swimming up to like the cosmos, the heavens, the other is like swimming down. And so it's kind of like a bridge between the two. And, you know, my home, my house, you know, like my dwelling where I live is like very sacred to me. Like that's where I feel safe, secure. Even when I would like go out in my 20s and I'd be like in the city and stuff, it was always about like, can't wait to get back home, you know? I'm also quite introverted, so like being home, that's like where I can relax, charge my batteries. You know, I'm meditating at home. And so, you know, with Saturn transiting my 4th house, which it's about to move out finally and move into my 5th house early April of next year. So Saturn is kind of like the crappiest planet in astrology. So Saturn is all about limits, restrictions, boundaries, and it would be like Saturn would be like, I don't know, it would be like you wanting to start a business and there's all of these roadblocks and challenges and restrictions and limitations, and you think, oh my God, Saturn, that's like the influence of Saturn, and you're like, oh my God, I hate Saturn. But what happens is when you work with the limitations, when there are roadblocks, it causes you ideally to like double down, to learn more. And so Saturn provides this restriction, this roadblocks, barriers, boundaries, so that as you continue to work in whatever endeavor, creative endeavor, whatever it might be, it causes you to like learn everything. And then you have a breakthrough, and then Saturn says, congratulations, now you're really good at XYZ. All of that hard work made you not just create a good business, but now you're like an expert at it because I gave you those challenges, and you were really only meant to overcome the challenges. You weren't meant to give up, and then you're like, well, shit, but I gave up. And it's like, well, that's the influence of Saturn. And so, you know, it has felt like in my home environment, you know, like I can't stand barking dogs. And so what is Saturn? Boundaries. My home is supposed to be my quiet, peaceful, spiritual place. But now I'm hearing my neighbor's dog barking, and it's like the boundary of my home is like being crossed. You know, I've had a lot of that stuff. Other things like hey, why is my furnace making a clicking sound all the time? It's supposed to be quiet in here, why do I hear a dripping sound, in the house? And so I've had so much of these. And so Saturn, it takes Saturn 3 years in each sign. As I've mentioned, my 4th house, Pisces, is my 4th house. By the way, you have every zodiac sign in your birth chart. So Pisces is my 4th house, and Saturn has been in Pisces for the last 3 years. It moved into Pisces in 2023 and then fully moves out in 2026. So wherever Saturn is in your birth chart, that might mean something. And by the way, if any of you guys want either Ableton live sessions, in fact, I have one student, we meet on Zoom, and then Zoom allows you to pull up Ableton or anything, and I can hear what's going on his project. And so we work on his project and we have fun. But I will also say that, I've been practicing astrology for the last 3 years, maybe 4 years now. So I can read. You can be my first ever astrology reading that I can give you and explain all this stuff if you're interested in astrology. But in any event, as I'm sure you can tell by looking at this image on the screen, that's generated by ChatGPT. I was talking to ChatGPT about Saturn transiting my 4th house, and that it's finally going to be gone, and what might it look like when this sort of domineering, restrictive, boundaries being crossed, etc., moves out of my 4th house, the house of home. What am I going to expect, Am I and so we had this talk, and what I like to do sometimes when I'm talking to AI, talking to ChatGPT, is I'll say, okay, generate after we've talked about all of this, Saturn transiting my 4th house, I'm after we've talked about all of this stuff, I'll say, hey, generate me an image that encapsulates what we just talked about Saturn in the 4th house and transiting it. And this is the image that it gave me. And yeah, it just kind of looks like a generic, cartoonish, stylized drawing, which is fine, because I care more about the symbology, but I really like it. And after it generates an image for me, oftentimes I'll be tell me about it. Tell me about this image. And it's this is you meditating in your house. Maybe it's a new house. Obviously Saturn's there because we were talking about it. It's very peaceful. The heart chakra is illumined, completely at peace now in your home, now that Saturn has taught you what it wanted to teach you about your home environment. And I really liked this. And I really liked this because of just how simple it was. Beautiful window. I love the way the Saturn looks. I like this little crescent moon, the sun, or the stars. The meditating, because I'm never in a better place than when I'm sitting meditating like this. Heart chakra, your heart, living through your heart, unity consciousness, experiencing that when you're meditating, completely at peace, rest, stillness. I like the little candle here. I like the little plant. And I was I haven't done Blender. I haven't done my 3D computer graphics in a while. I've done more digital art stuff. I was I'm inspired now to open up Blender and recreate this. So I used this image. It can give you an idea, right? I don't want to show someone this. I don't want to say, hey, check out the art that AI made for me. I don't really care that much about this. But I like that it gave me the idea, and now I can then recreate the idea. It's easy to generate a room in Blender. It's easy to generate a window that looks like this. Can make the candle, the plant. It's simple, the little mat. But it ain't so easy to make a character, you know? So what do? I was like, let's see if AI can help me. So this is Meshy AI. I had it, it actually did a very bad job. Well, actually, these aren't really that bad, but when you really know what you want, I'm like, yeah, I don't really want it to look like any of these. And I found this one, which I didn't want this creepy UV mask. It's actually quite terrifying. I don't even want to do that, but I think I went with this one down here because I wanted something that just looked very generic. So I think I said like generate like a meditation. Actually, let's just do one. Let's ask the prompt. I'm going to make it very simple. I'm just going to say meditation, sitting, cross-legged, humanoid, figure, and just see what it does. I'm going to click generate. You get like free tasks, only so many, and then they run out. You have to wait for it to be over. So it's generating it right now. Don't know how long it's going to take. Truthfully, this Meshy AI I don't think is very good, and they only let you download the program. They only let you download the model if you like use like the lowest one, and I've just noticed that it's kind of crappy. There's one called Tripo 3D, which I think is a lot better, but just because I have an account set up, I was like, oh, let's just do this. I'm using AI right now to generate a 3D model, which you're really not going to have much use for unless you like do work in like a 3D computer graphics software like Blender or Cinema 4D, or if you use, Unreal Engine or Unity, which are like video game engines. That's where you make like video games. You're probably not going to have a need to have these 3D models unless you're like building things. I just wanted a very basic image because yes, it's easy to get like a 3D model of like a humanoid figure, but then, to get it to pose, you either have to use a dedicated program like that. So I was like, if this thing could like make it for me, that would be amazing. And oh crap, I think it did. Yeah, so like I don't want this, and I can't even download it either. I have to get like a pro account, so I need to go back into Meshy 4 and click generate. So then I can download it if it's good. Not that I really care, but if it's good, I can always then download it and use it. And it's really crazy too, because you know how I said it was really creepy when it had the skin on the guy? So that's what's called UV mapping in 3D computer graphics terms, which you have like the model, and then the model is just made of polygons, and polygons are made of vertices, edges, and faces that all connect. And then it takes a texture and then it maps it to the body, but you have to like UV unwrap it, which is like one of the things you learn when you're starting off. It's like very challenging. So like this one down here actually isn't that bad. I actually like this one. I'm going to click confirm, and now it's going to give the texture to it, so it'll UV map it to it, which I really don't care. I kind of wanted just like a silhouette. This actually is good. I'm happy with that. But look at these ones. It's so weird, but even these weird things, it's kind of like interesting, So I'm going to click confirm, and now it's going to basically add like a texture to it, which I can use or not use. Only if you use its lowest model would it allow you to download the actual model so you can use it in your computer graphics software. That's what we have. But I already did all of this, and so I'm going to show you what I was working on last night and how I used that AI to further a creative project. Let's see what kind of a texture it decided to give it, even though I don't really care about the texture that much. Because I just want like a silhouette. Bro, what? Okay, apparently it's a skeleton. Now you could say regenerate the texture. I really don't care because I don't really plan to use it. I kind of just want like a silhouette of like a person. So now I can click download. I'm gonna download it now. You can make all this stuff very easily if you know what you're doing in 3D computer graphics. But getting a human or like an animal, like you don't just make that on your own. If you're able to get help in that way, you'd be silly not to. So let's open up Blender. So here we go. Now, as I was mentioning, this is what it generated for me. See, these are all the polygons. These are vertexes. Vertexes are linked with edges. And then they form faces. 3 faces, there's a triangle. 4 is a quad. Yeah, made all of this stuff. Because I really wanted there to be a person there. It's not done. I'd like to add like this, like a snake plant or something. I like the candle. That makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. I liked the thought of having octahedrons there. I liked, the Saturn thing. I love this window. So right now, these are called meshes, polygonal meshes. So when we go into render mode, I'm going to click that right now. In order to see anything in the 3D world, you need to have lights. Otherwise, if you clicked render, it would just be black because there's no light in here. Let's add a light. Play with the strength. Too much. Can move the light around. Interesting. I'll get rid of it. And so I just added a little bit of a gradient to the world. To the world shader. So we've got this kind of a thing. Camera's in that little box. Push 0 to go into the camera view. And there's various things that I can do. This is like the beginning, but I like love this. And I wouldn't have thought to do this if I didn't have AI generate that image for me. And I love Blender. I love making these like 3D worlds. And someone might say, well, but why do that when you have AI that can do it for you? And, 1 second. Why do all of that when you can just have AI generate whatever image you want? As you know, you don't just tell AI to do things, you talk to it. So you might say, oh, the image you generated for me, could you make the colors softer, more pastel? I want more pink in the photo. Could you add clouds? I don't see any clouds. And it will do all of this. And the better model you use, the better the results will be. But AI gives you a product. Some people, they need a product. But the reason why we create is because of the process. When you're truly creating something, you're not thinking. You're going beyond your mind. You're connecting with your higher self. You're connecting with the higher dimensions that you're intrinsically a part of. So when I sit to make a piece of music, or I set to make a piece of art, some sort of like 3D world, I'm not doing it just for the product. In fact, I've got hundreds of pieces of art that I haven't uploaded. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't upload them, because I think the majority of these AI image models, they just scrubbed Reddit, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook. And I could kind of see, like, when I was using some of these AI image generators, I was like, you could tell it seemed like they were ripping off of somebody's style. So maybe it's a good thing I didn't upload all of those. Now, I don't know, maybe it still does that, but in any event, yeah, it's the process. It's the way you feel when you do it. It's so satisfying. I love the way that looks. And granted, that what I showed you is in the early stages, right? Like, there's a lot to do. I'm going to make the crescent moon and the stars glow, and I'm going to adjust the lighting. I'm going to add like a plant and like a candle on a little stool because I just like the way that looks. And it starts coming to life, and it's amazing. And as it's coming to life, you then get other ideas, and it's like you're having this sort of like dance with your higher self, with the cosmos. Feels good, you feel good. And so AI is good if you need a product, but the true satisfaction is in the creation of it. Like that very average photo of that girl meditating there, I saw something in it. I was like, I like that. It's very simple. I really like the window. It's symbolic. It reminds me of me, going through this Saturn, going through my fourth house. I want to turn that into art. And then the art that I make, doesn't really look anything like that image, nor do I care, but it gave me an idea. And especially because I've been having fun making the videos, I've been having fun doing more of the digital art compositing, I really haven't been using Blender very much. I haven't been that interested. So the fact that it was like, oh, I want to create that would be something I would create in Blender. Now I'm sitting down, I'm opening up Blender, which I haven't done. Like, I was helped with AI, and it was able to generate that very basic humanoid meditation figure. Like, it was incredible, and I'm excited to go work on it later. I've got a lot of stuff to do. What's it going to look like? What's it going to turn into? What am I going to use for the heart that's glowing? What's that going to look like? And then that new 3D model that we just made and generated, maybe I might want to swap it out and see if that one looks better. It's really cool. So don't fear it, because AI can really help you in a lot of areas. So I was going to talk more about AI and spiritual stuff, but I'm really getting exhausted. I'm really getting exhausted, so I feel like that's probably good for today. Hope you enjoyed the SDHO. Drop a like, drop a comment. If you're interested in any Ableton or even Blender or astrology, any of that stuff, any sort of sessions, let me know. I think the rates that I charge are very, very low. And we can do whatever. But hope you guys are doing well. Hope you enjoyed some of that. Hopefully you got some creativity, some ideas from it. And I will be on again sometime soon. He's thinking, he's like, is it food time now?